Hi, and welcome to the third session of Advanced SQL using the MySQL Database, offered to you by the Clifton Park Half Moon Library. My name is Scott Bartow, and last session we finished up with working with the group by clause, and you can see on my screen we were starting to dabble into using the operator, the having operator, which I'm highlighting right here, which works with the group by clause. One thing I want to go back on is we had used the aggregate function count with the group by, and what we had done is we had taken, let's see, we had taken our select, and we simply selected status, comma, and then we did count, which is a function, and we're going to do star as the parameter for the count function. And what that does is that will count every record in the table that we're going to be using. So the table was, we used the from clause, and the table is orders, and then we did a group by. And we're doing a group by the status column, and finish with a semicolon. And so if I run this, it throws an error because I have to preface the table name with the database name, which is, the database name is classic models dot, and then orders is the table name we want. So I hit the lightning bolt, and it's running. It's fetching. It's taking a little while. Here we go. So if you look in the middle of my screen, I have the result grid, and it lists the values for all the statuses and how many records were counted based on status. So the first record is shipped, has a status of shipped, and has a count of 303 records. So this is an example of using the group by clause in SQL and combining it with the aggregate function of count. So now I want to do, I want to take a look at another aggregate function that we can use with group by. And this one is sum. So if I replace the count function with the sum function, then in parentheses, I'm going to put in the column quantity ordered times the column price each, and in parentheses, and I'm going to say, I'm going to give it a column alias as amount. All right. And this is still going to be from the, but this is going to be from the order details table. So from classic models.order details. And here I'm going to combine the group by with a join. So if I'll hit enter. I'm going to do an inner join, which we worked on a couple of sessions ago. So inner join, and then I'll list, oh, I'm sorry. The from is from the orders table, and the inner join is going to be from the order details table. So I'll have classic models dot, and then I'll do order details for the table name using, remember, we can use the using operator for our join only when you're comparing a column between two tables and the column name on both tables is the same. Otherwise, you have to use the operator on, and it would be on, and then the column name from the one table equal to the column name from the other table. So in this case, the column name we're going to be looking at and comparing to is the column order number, and that is spelled, that column name is spelled the same in both the orders table and the order details table. So I can use the using operator for my inner join, and I will do order number, and then I can do my group by, and I'm going to group by status, just like I did when I was using the count function. Now I'm using the sum function, and I'm summing quantity ordered times price each. So I keep my group by, and I'm grouping by the status column. And I finish my SQL with a semicolon, and I'm ready to run. So I run, and by using the inner join, I was able to get the actual the columns quantity ordered and price each. And by using the inner join, I was able to join the data from the orders table to the order details table. And then I was using I used a group by, and group by status in this case. And status, if you look in the result grid, it lists, it groups by all the statuses, say for the first record, all the statuses that have a status of shipped, and it takes quantity ordered for each record times price each, turns it into an amount, and then lists that out. And then it sums all those amounts. It sums them up and then displays them. So for all the shipped records, when you multiply quantity ordered times price each, it comes up with this grand total amount, which is 88,650,000. Nope, 1, 2, 3. 8,865,094. And then you can see the same with the status of resolved, canceled, on hold, disputed, in process, etc. So that's just another example of how to use a aggregate function of sum, and here we're using it as an inner join. And the group by clause. Now, here's an easier way to do the code that we just did, simply by using a group by. So instead of having what we have here, using an inner join and a using operator, what we can do is simply group by. So what I can do is, let's say, quantity order times price each, right? I can keep those as amount. And up in my select statement, I can change the status. Instead of having the status column, I'm going to select on order number. Okay. So order number. So this query is going to return the order numbers and the total amount of each order, right? So I'll select order number, and I'll still select using the function sum. I'll select the quantity order times price each as amount. And I'm going to be, let's see, it's going to be from the order details table. So I can get rid of the inner join and the using. So from classic models dot order details. All right. It's not a capital D in the table name. So order details. There it is. Order details. All right. And then what I do is I group by, instead of group by status, the status column, I'm going to group by the order number. So it's a simpler way to write this code using group by. I'm just grouping by, instead of grouping by status, I'm grouping by order number. And that way I don't need the inner join to combine the information from the orders table. I can simply grab it from the order details table. So there's no need for a join in this case, because there's only one table that we're looking at. So let me run this query. And if you look at the middle of my screen, the result grid says order number, right? It lists each order number, and it lists the amount. And I'll scroll down. You can see the different amounts, the total amount for that order. So it's just a different way to use group by. It depends what data you want. In the previous example, we wanted the grand total of quantity order times price each for all records that had a status, had each individual status. So in this case, we want the grand total amount from whatever order number we're listing out. So the first record in the result grid, the order number is 10,100, and the amount is 10,223.83. So it adds up how many items they chose, right? The quantity ordered, and then it multiplies that times the price for each. So let's see, anything else for using functions? All right, let's do one more using a different function. All right, so in addition to columns, you can group rows by expression. The following query gets the total sales for each year. All right, so let's start our query over. All right, so we'll start fresh. So I have my select, and then I'm going to have I'm going to use the function year, right? And then the parameter is going to be the column order date. And that's going to be, we're going to give it a column alias as, and we're going to call it year, comma, and then I've got another column. And this one's using the function sum, just like the previous two examples. And once again, we're going to have quantity ordered times the price each, parentheses, and we give that a column alias as total. All right, so that's all we're selecting, and it's going to be from orders. The order, I have to preface it with the database name, and it's from the orders table. And then I'm going to do an inner join, and that's going to be from the order details table. And once again, I can use using. And this would be by the order number. So when the order number equals the order number value on both the orders table and the order details table. And we'll do a where clause, where status equals shipped, capital S shipped. Okay, hit enter, and then finally we're going to have a group by clause. And this is going to group by year. So I'll use the function year. So you should use functions within the group by, as well as up in the select statement with columns. So year, and I'll have order date. So in this case, order date is the parameter. I'll finish with a semicolon. Order date is the parameter of the function year. All right. So what this will do, it will get the total sales for each year. All right. So I'm going to run this. And there's an error. Order date as year. As year. Of year. Order date as year. Comma. So it doesn't. If you look at the bottom of my screen, I have an error. So you got this bottom red S, and it says select year order date as year. Sum quantity order times prices as a unknown column quantity. Oh, I misspelled quantity ordered. So my error is on line number 2, and I have the function sum, and in parentheses I've got, instead of quantity, I've got a T there. So quantity ordered. And when I add the N, you can see this IntelliSense brings up the column name quantity ordered. So I should just double click that, and it brings up the right name. So now I should be all set to run it again, and I am. If you look, a result grid gets returned, and you can see I've got total orders, order amounts. Let's see. You get total sales, which is the sum of quantity ordered times price each, and I get the total by year. So my my database, my classic models database, only has 3 years of data. So I've got 2003, 4, and 5. So you can see the total is for each of those years. All right, and this is probably a good point to talk about the having clause. So let's go and use this example to talk about having. So since we have this this nice group by example up, we'll I know last session I mentioned briefly the having clause, but the having clause comes after the group by clause. And what you do is, so I took out the semicolon in my code, and you go down to the next line below the group by clause, and you put in having. And for this example, we're going to say having a total that's greater than how much? Greater than, say, 14,000 or 140,000. And I'll do a semicolon. Now, if you look at the result grid, by adding the having clause, I should get rid of the record for 2005. because that has a total of 134,000. Oh no, wait a minute. So 1.3 1,341,000. So I will say greater than 1.4 million. So I just need to add another 0 to my having statement. All right, so that should do it. So that should eliminate the 2005 total. So my result grid should only return 2003 numbers and 2004 numbers. All right, so I'll run this. And that's what it does. In my result grid now, I get 2003 and 2004. 2003 has 3.2 million and 2004 had 4.3 million. All right, so that's a simple way to use the having clause. What else should I say? Let's see, why don't we go back and do another example, just so you have an idea about having. All right, so why don't I do a brand new? I'll do a brand new query. So I'm going to select order number, comma. I'll put it below here. I'm using the sum function. I'll do quantity ordered. And I will give it a column alias as items count, comma, and then I'll do another sum function, and this will be price each times one, the ordered. Let's see, and I'll give it an alias as total. And then this will be from classic models dot, and you have order details table. And then I'm going to group by order number. All right, so I'll run this query. And my result grid returns an order number with an items count and a total amount. And the total is the price each times quantity ordered. Now, how do I use the having clause? In this case, once again, the having clause goes underneath the group by clause, having, and then I'm going to say total greater than 1,000. And I have my semicolon at the end of my SQL statement. All right, so this should eliminate greater than, having total greater than 1,000. I'm just looking at the records from my previous query, and it looks like they all pretty much are greater than 1,000. How about greater than 10,000? Greater than 10,000. So I'll put that there. I'll add another 0 to my query, and I'll run it. All right, so the first record has a total of 10,223, and you can see, why don't I add an order by statement? So I'll sort the data out by total. Order by total. And yeah, let's see what happens. I'll run my query. Now my data is sorted in ascending order by total, right? So the first record has 10,223, and then 10,549, 10,721, etc., all the way down to, well, there's a ton of records, down to 67,392. but they're all greater than 10,000. Now, with the having clause, another thing you can do is I can say having total greater than 10,000, but I can make this a complex condition by adding and. So and on the line below, I say total is less than, say, 30,000. All right, I'll run that. And so the first record is 10,000. And let's see what the last record is. The last record is 29,997, just below 30,000. So it's, using having is just another way to take the group by data and to filter it, basically. So that's the and. Now, what if you had what if we had status to our select? Oops. So I've got status, and then I'm going to group by order number, comma, and then by status. All right. So I'll run this query. Let's see what comes up. Oh, I got a problem. Order number, status, unknown column status in the field list. Oh, that's why we need an inner join. The status is on the orders table. So what we have to do is we can keep our from of order details, but below it, I have to do an inner join. And this is going to be of the orders table using, because we're going to use the the order number, which is spelled the same way on both the orders table and the order details table. So I've got using, and then parentheses, and it will be order number, parentheses, and that should work. So group by order number, comma status, and let's see what happens. No database select. Oh, I forgot the database. In my inner join, I simply put inner join orders, but I have to have that classic models database name first. So I'll execute now, and if you look at my result grid, I now have selected the status column. So the second column is status, and you can see it lists all the statuses, and it lists how many items based on the order number, how many items are in that order by looking at the items count. So if you look at the first record, it lists my order number is 10100. My status was shipped. Items in that order are 151, and the total amount of sales in that order is 10,223. So we're using the having, where a total is greater than 10,000 and it's less than 30,000. And that's all I'm listing. If I go down to the bottom to look at my last record, yeah, the total is still under 30,000. So why don't we change that a little bit, and we'll say, how about we say greater than, so in the having clause, we're going to have total is greater than 10,000, and the status equals, comma, let's say, I want to say in process, capital P process, single quote, and let's try that. Here are lists all the records that using the having clause that have a total greater than 10,000 and a status equal to in process. So if you look at the three records, they all have the status of in process, and they all have totals that are greater than 10,000. Now remember, I took out the total being less than 30,000. So as long as the total is greater than 10,000 and the status is in process, then those are the records that we want to list. And it's all being done using the having clause, which you can use with the group by clause. So, all right, so that's enough of the having clause. Now let's move on to the rolling clause. So it's actually called, the clause is called roll up. And what it does is it allows you to it's used in conjunction with the group by clause. And what it does is it allows you to roll up amounts based on what you've grouped by. So here's an example. So I'll start with my select, and I'm going to select order number, and I'm going to do I'm going to use the function sum, and I will do quantity ordered times price each as total, and then I'll do from classic models order details, and then my last statement is my group by, and I'm going to group by order number, and I'm doing it with roll up. All right, so what that will do is I'm grouping by order number, right? And I'm going to display, well, I'll run it with roll up. So but get rid of that, okay? And I'll finish with a semicolon. So this should just list my order number, and for that order, the quantity amount times price each as total in a total column. So if I run it, there's one little order. Let's say if you look down at the bottom of my screen, you can see the error. Unknown column I spelled quantity wrong again. Quantity. I have to include a T in there. And so I'll run it again. And here it returns the result grid of each individual order with the total amount, which is quantity order times price each for that order. So if I scroll to the bottom, my last record is the order number is 10425, and I've got an amount of 41,623 and 44 cents. So within the group by clause, you can add a with roll up clause, and what that will do is that will roll up all the amounts in the total column, and it will display it at the very bottom after the last record. So just simply by hitting with roll up in your group by clause, it will do that. So when I run it, you see in my result grid, I've got order number and total. And if I go down to the bottom, the order number is null, but the grand total is, let me spread this out, is 9,604,190 and 61 cents, which is adding up all the totals for each record. So That's how you use the with rollup within your group by clause. All right, so now let's move on to subqueries, which are extremely helpful when you're trying to retrieve certain data. So subqueries in MySQL is a query that's nested within another query. So a subquery can be nested inside another subquery. So the subquery is called an inner query, while the query that contains the subquery is called an outer query. A subquery can be used anywhere that an expression is used and must be closed in parentheses. So let me give you an example. Okay, so let's start fresh. Get rid of this. So you have your select, and I'll do last name and first name. Enter. And this is going to be from the employees table. Classic. I have to preface it with the database name. Employees table. And then I'm going to do my where clause, where office code. Right, so office code is, if we look over to the left, where's the employees table? Employees table, I'll click on the column. So employees table is first name, last name, first name. It's at the office code. So office code is going to be in. Remember the use of in our where clause. And then here's where we're going to do our subquery, which would be the inner query. And what we'll do is we'll do a select. Do this select, okay. And we're going to select office code. So I'll say in. I'm going to put this down below. From offices of classic models, offices, classic models, offices, where country equals the USA. USA. There we go. All right, and I have to close the inner query, subquery, with a parenthesis. So you see, we said where office code in, and then in, and you're doing the inner subquery here. You start with the parenthesis, you put the inner subquery all within parentheses, and then you have a select of office code, right? Because this within this inner subquery, this office code has to match with the outer subquery office code. From the classic models database offices, where country equals USA. And I'll finish it with a semicolon. And let's run this. And if you go down to the bottom of my data, you can see unknown column, office code in any subquery. So that is on line 3. My where clause says where office code. So the typo, so I missed the E in office. So I just add the E and I run it, and it returns a result grid. that has last name, first name. And basically, these are people that are being returned that have an office code that or that have a office in the country USA. So why don't we try and add that to our select? That's employees, that's office. Right, so if I go up to my select, then I select country. Let's see. Nope, unknown column, country in that field list. All right, because country comes from the second query, second subquery, which is from the office code table or the offices table. So how can we generate that? All right, but you can see how this is, that's an office code. All right, so you can see how you can do a subquery from a totally different table. You get the results that you want. So in this example, the subquery returns all office codes of the offices located in the USA. The outer query, which is the first query right here, I'll highlight it right here. That selects the last name and first name from the employees table who work in the offices whose office codes are in the result set returned by the second subquery, which is here. When the query is run, the subquery runs first, right? So this, and returns a result set. Then this result set is used as input for the outer query. So when I execute this code, what's run first is this. It'll say, all right, select the office code from the offices table where country equals USA. It'll select that, bring back the result set, and then that result set is used by the outer subquery, this one right here, to figure out which employees' last name and first name I should list that work in offices that are located in the USA. So now you can also, there's more you can do with subqueries. So another thing you can do with subqueries is you can use comparison operators, which are like the equal sign, greater than sign, less than sign, to compare a single value that was returned by the subquery with the expression in the where clause. So, for example, we're going to do a query that returns the customer who has the maximum payment. So the way to do that is, let's start fresh, is we'll select customer number and check number and amount. And we're going to select it from the payments table. If I go over to my left, I'll close down the employees table and I'll open up the payments table. See what columns are in there. So customer number, check number, payment date, and amount. All right, so we're just simply grabbing the data from the payments table where amount, the column amount equals, and here's where I add my inner query, inner subquery. And what I will do is I'll start it with the select, like all SQL. I'm going to hit enter though. So equal, hit enter, indent a little bit, and do a parenthesis, and then I'll start with my select statement. I'm going to select, I'm going to use the function max, M-A-X. I'll pass it the parameter amount, so the maximum amount, and that'll be from the payments table. Semicolon. Oops. Semicolon at the end of your statement. All right, so I'm selecting the customer number, check number, and amount columns from the payments table, where the amount equals, and then I go into my inner subquery, and that is select of the maximum amount. So I use the function max, and I pass it the parameter of amount from the payments table. And that should just simply list one record that shows what my max amount is off my payments table. So if I click the lightning bolt, it throws an error, no database. So if I go back up to my from clause and choose the classic models table, database, and the payments table, now I can hit the lightning bolt, run this again. Oh, no, classic models, payments. Oh, it's missing from this section from clause in my inner subquery. So I need classic models dot payments. And now this should work. So I hit the lightning bolt and it returns one row. And I have 141, check number, and the amount, which was 120,166.58. So that's the second way to use subqueries. Now, how about using the greater than sign? All right. So greater than sign or less than sign. So say you want to find customers whose payments are greater than the average payment using a subquery. Greater than the average payment. All right. So let's see. First, why don't we can still use the select statement of customer number, check number, and amount from the payments table, where what? Where the amount, we'll get rid of this, inner query, instead of the amount being equal to, it's going to be greater than. And here's where I do my subquery, parenthesis, and do select statement, select. And we're going to use the function average, AVG, and we'll pass it the parameter of amount, the amount column. And we'll do from classic models dot payments, in parentheses and semicolon. All right. So this will be, it'll list all customers whose payments are greater than the average payment. And let's see, from, okay. So I hit the lightning bolt, Here's my result set. It lists the customer number with the check number, and the amount is greater than the average. So that's another way to use the subquery. See what's going on above the average. Okay. If a subquery returns more than one value, you can use other operators such as in or not in the where clause. I use the in operator all the time in the where clause, and then you use it when it returns more than one value. When the subquery returns more than one value. So, all right. So, for example, you can use a subquery with the not in operator to find customers who have not placed any orders. And we would do that by, let's start with a fresh SQL statement. So we're just going to select the customer name. And this is coming from the customers table. So I'm going to close down off to the left. I'm going to close down the payments table. I'll open up customers, columns. All right, so we're doing customer name. And then we have a from statement, and we're going to do classic models dot customers. And then we'll have a where clause, and we'll have customer number. Just have to spell it right, customer number. And we'll say, instead of using the in operator, we're going to use not in. And here's where we'll start our subquery, right? So I start with a parenthesis, select, and then I will do, well, I'm going to do select distinct, right? So I only want a customer number, I only want it to be listed once, so I'm using select distinct. Otherwise, if I just do a select statement in my subquery, I'm going to get possibly a bunch of records with the same customer number. So I just want one customer number that has no, that has not placed any orders. So I've got select distinct, and it's going to be a select distinct customer number. Enter, and this will be my from in my subquery. From classic models, and it's from the orders table. And close out the subquery with a parenthesis and semicolon, and let's run it. And here's all the unique customers. Why don't we prove that the customers are unique, because we use the select distinct in our subquery. So I will, now we want to select oops. So I close out the subquery with a parenthesis, hit enter, and I believe I can put order by for the outer subquery. Order by, and we want to order by customer name, semicolon. Let's see what happens. Yep, there we go. All right, so now I've got my customer name all sorted out, right? And every customer name, because I'm using the select distinct in my inner subquery, every customer name, every record should be unique. It should have a unique customer name, and it looks like they do. Just looking at the data real quick, you can see that they're all unique names. So these are all the customers in our database that have no orders placed, and we're able to generate those results by doing a subquery. All right, so one more thing I want to show you with the subquery is using a subquery. We've been using all these subqueries have been used in the with this in the where clause, but you can also do it in the from clause, and the result set returned from the subquery is used as a temporary table, and that table is referred to as a derived table or materialized subquery. The following subquery it's going to find the maximum, the minimum, and the average number of items in sales orders. All right, but we're going to be putting our subquery in the from clause. All right, so let's start from scratch again. I've got my select statement. So I'm going to do select, and I'm going to use the function max, parenthesis, and I'm going to have items, parenthesis, comma, and then I'm going to have the function min, parenthesis, and the parameter will be items. And then finally, I'm going to have floor. I'm going to have the function floor, comma, and then the function average. And then, so average, the function average is the parameter for the function floor, and the parameter for the function average is going to be items. And that's it for the select statement. Now, the from statement, from, here I'm going to have parenthesis, I'm going to have select. This is pretty wild doing it in the from statement. So from order number, comma, and I use the function count. This is a pretty complex subquery. Order number as items. Okay. And then in my subquery, I got from basic models, and then the order details. Hit enter, and then I've got group by order number. As line items and semicolon. Oops. Basic models. Semicolon goes here at the end. All right, so this is a subquery in the from clause where the result set returned will be from the subquery is used as a temporary table. All right, the following subquery is going to find the max, the min, and the average number of items in sales orders. All right, let's see what happens. the max, the min, and the average. So, and going back to our select statement, let's say I have an error here. So I get this, average. Oh, I need another parenthesis here. But as far as the floor goes, the floor is a function that's used to remove decimal places from the average values of items. So that's why I'm using floor here, and then I'm using average here. All right, so I did need that. All right, and then my from, and then I have my subquery. So I have select, order number, comma, count, order number, parenthesis, as items, from classic models dot order details, group by, order number, and this has to be a closing parenthesis. I got rid of my red error on line number 1 as line items. All right, group by, order number. So that is a temporary table as line items. All right, so let's see what happens. I'm going to run my query, and this is what's generated in the result grid. It's just a single record, and it lists the maximum number of items in an order is 18. The minimum number was, of course, 1. And the average number of items is 9, right? So that's a little bit complex. I've never done a subquery within the from clause to create a temporary table that's referenced, but this is how you would do it. So all my subqueries that I've used on the job have been in the where clause, like the previous 3 examples. So and they're extremely handy to be able to access the data and display it the way you want it. So that's it for this session. I hope you enjoyed the class, and so that's the end of the 3rd session for advanced SQL using MySQL Database, and offered to you by the Clifton Park Half Moon Library. We will have one more class in this, or one more session in this advanced SQL class. And please accept my invitation for all of you that have registered with the Clifton Park Half Moon Library to take this class. Please accept my invitation that I've sent out to you to be able to access the Google Classroom and to look at the exercises, or to have access to ask me questions. All right, look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot.